public session. So we already did our opening. John is back in, so let's get John in the meeting. And the first thing, we're on number 3 on the agenda is formal action to be taken to item 2C, which is, what is 2C? I don't know. Anyway, so we have a resolution which is 21-168. I will read the title. It's a resolution of the Borough of Bernardsville, County of Somerset, New Jersey, designating Advance Realty Investors as redeveloper for the Quimby Lane redevelopment area for Block 70, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.01, 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, and 6.08. Block 71, lots 4, 5, 5.01, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And the Quimby Lane right-of-way is shown on the official tax map of the Borough of Bernardsville, and authorizing the negotiation of a redevelopment agreement with the developer for the redevelopment of such property in accordance with the redevelopment plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to introduce.
Sounds like acclamation.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Sorry. Mr. Donahue,
No.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Marino,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. Zamara.
Yes.
Okay, and I'd just like to say this was a really difficult decision to make. It was an involved decision. We spent a lot of time, and I want to thank our attorney, Joe DeMarco, and Chris Colley from Topology and Jack and everyone that's been involved in this process. It has not been easy. And our administrator, Tom Chernetsky, for really digging into the details of this and helping us with making this decision. What we'll be working on next is putting the agreement together. So that will be setting milestones for the developer. Our goal is to have things continue to move. We've been making great progress, I think, so far since this whole process started. And I want to thank the council members for their diligence in this whole process. So that's great. I don't know.
I'd just like to say real quickly, obviously as a lone dissenter, I should probably say something publicly. It just made more sense to me to appoint someone who already owned a key piece of property than giving someone designation who has to assemble it. So I think the process may lead us to places that we have to consider things we shouldn't do. And, not saying the cost basis it might take to assemble it, but my view didn't prevail, but, let's move forward.
Yeah. And as, our attorney has advised us, the designation is not a permanent designation. So should at some point we feel that our developer isn't meeting the milestones we set, we can revoke that designation. Right now, we feel very positive about where we're going. And I know Peter, if Peter is here, I don't see him attending, but what was so great about this process is both of the developers are local people with wonderful reputations. We were very fortunate to have 2 very qualified developers put in proposals, and they're both very committed to the community. So I think this will be a very positive experience for all of us. Okay, so now we will move on to, where am I? Jeez. Oh, is Rye here? I didn't see him. No? I don't see him on the participant list. Rye Bindra was I guess he was a senior. He just graduated from Bernards High. And I first met him when we set up the diversity committee, and he volunteered to be on it. He is just an amazing, bright, enthusiastic, hardworking, just very positive, very mature for his age. And he asked me probably around May or June if I knew of any internships or where he could get an internship, because he didn't want to just get a summer job. He wanted to spend his summer doing something, where he could learn. So I connected him with our administrator, and they came up with the idea of doing a community survey. Maybe Tom, you can put a little more into that than I do.
Yes, so what Rye did was we gave him some samples. I think one dates back to when you were an undergraduate mayor. You did a citizen survey here.
Yeah.
I've done a few, but they're largely based on the International City and County Management Association's model for measuring the effectiveness of surveys, measuring the effectiveness of local government services. And the idea is this is something that you can revisit every few years. Interns are great opportunities for them to do it. And then it kind of points to service areas that may need more attention that you're not aware of. So I think it's consistent with our commitment to good management, but Rye did a great job. He met with department heads as a group and individually. He went over the questions, received their input. Our goal is to receive 300 random surveys back. So we'll be mailing them out. And once we hit that 300 mark, we'll have a 95% confidence level. We'll also make it available on the website so people can do it electronically. And we'll summarize the data and do a report for council and department heads when it's all done. But he's a fine young man, smart young man, and happy to have him working with us.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe he'll pop in later. So if he does, we'll introduce him.
And when we get this information, what's the plan? What do we do with it?
What do we do with the information?
Yeah.
Well, the way I've used it before is obviously we include it in our budget assessment to know where to focus resources. It's also very helpful in applying for grants because they want to know. We get points when the grantors know that what we're applying for is in high demand.
Is Rye going to college anywhere locally that he can continue this project, or he
Yes.
helped with the survey? Now he's got to go off to college.
No, he's staying in New Jersey. I forget, is it Stevens or NJIT, one of those schools? Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just had one other question.
Yeah.
I think Councilwoman Zamara had brought up in the past, is it an actual citizens survey or is it a resident survey?
ICMA calls it a citizen survey, so we just kind of went with that title.
Okay. I just didn't know if it would dissuade people from participating. Maybe something to think about.
Yeah, we can certainly change it if there's more comfort with that.
Yeah. The word citizen and citizenship sometimes turns people off.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And yeah, we want,
Especially given our population. Right?
yes. So we don't want people to feel like they can't participate if they're not a citizen.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
So president might be a better term. good point.
And along those lines, do we have the ability for someone to click and translate it? Like
I have-
sometimes if you put it on the website, there's an ability there that you can just add a button. Chris D'Amato would know that you just click it and translate to
Yeah, we'll
Spanish.
we'll try, and we have people on retainer in the court and in the I think with the PD that can just look at the final version, make sure it's accurate.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. We have minutes to approve of July 12th and July 26th. Do I have a motion to approve them?
I'll move to approve the minutes, July 12th and July 26th.
I'll second.
Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, thank you. Now we will have an open session for the public. Please, if you would like to speak, you can either raise your hand on the participant screen, or if you can't do that, just, do your video and wave at us. Anthony will give you a 3-minute timer that he'll hold up. Please just give your name and address before you speak. Would anyone in the public like to be heard? I am not seeing anybody's hand. Okay, I will close the public session. And moving on to ordinances. So I will move to open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-1888, an ordinance amending ordinance 2021-1872, which amended stormwater regulations and supplementing and amending section 29 of chapter 12 in the Borough Land Use Code. Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing no hands, I will close the public hearing. Gina, would you like to move that ordinance?
We have discussion on it before we vote? Or do we move it first and then discuss?
We can discuss it first because maybe we don't want to move it.
Well, the question I had was,
Go ahead, Jeff.
the question I had is, are we voting on the material that was in our packet, or on the recommendations came from the planning board just hours literally before our meeting? So which one are we voting on?
You're voting on the one that's in the packet.
Yeah.
Those are recommendations from the planning board, and they did not include it in their resolution finding that the ordinance is not inconsistent with the master plan. So they were just comments from the planning board. And we got it a few days ago. I just annotated the ordinance as in the packet just so you could follow what they were recommending.
Okay, so if we're voting on the one that's in the packet, they did raise a point that I was going to bring up as well, is when does this take effect, and when does the 3-year cycle start?
Yeah. May I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we talked about it at a staff meeting. So let's say theoretically we divide the list. The list is in first 1/3 is 12 homes. Well, we consider the year. So this year, for the balance of this year, will be year 1 to get this complete, and then we will come back to. So this, when 2021 ends, that'll mark the end of year 1, and then 2022 and 2023, and then we'll come back to you again in 2024.
But I think the ordinance says it's, at least I thought I saw a start date that was March 1st, or did I misread that?
So let's see.
Tom, are you looking for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then while you're looking at it, can you also verify my read is that the yearly requirement to file with the borough is still in this ordinance.
No, it's every 3 years.
It's
Every
every
third
three.
year.
Yeah, that's okay.
I
That's
think
paragraph
what Jeff's
3.
referring to is on page 10 of our agenda package, but it's number 3. And that refers to the forms being required, like in order to have a annual date. The inspection log forms are required to be submitted to the borough engineer by April 1st of every 3rd year. The administrator shall notify the property owner that they need to do this by March 1st. So maybe that's why you're thinking about March 1st?
Yes, thank you. I didn't have it in front of me. So I just was confused about the starting, where our various cut points are and what kind of instructions we're going to be giving to homeowners.
So that April 1st date is what's currently in place. So really all this ordinance did is it took the minor thing, it left everything else the same, but just put them on a 3-year cycle. We didn't change anything that was included in the original ordinance with respect to the majors. We just dialed down the minor.
The minor from 1 to 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which
Yeah.
I think is a good compromise.
Yeah, I'm okay with that compromise.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how we just, I mean, I guess we're going to randomly assign some houses to year 1 and then in year 2 and then year 3. But then it would start January 1, I take it, or then is that the idea?
Well, no, it would go into effect as soon as the ordinance is effective. So we'll, we'll have to be patient, and reasonable in year 1. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a challenge to get the first set taken care of.
And Jeff, this will be an issue that we'll take up in the enforcement committee. We'll have Jeff bring a plan schedule and we'll get it approved through that committee.
Oh, there you go.
Remind me, are there any fees that people have paid already? We want to make sure nobody's paying twice.
Yeah.
People aren't going to pay twice.
Okay. I only asked that because actually somebody's already asked, a resident's already asked me that. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
So to that point, Tom, could we put in here that if somebody has done a 2021, they then will not be required to do this for until the next 3 years are up?
I don't think you have to put it in there. I think I'll just handle that administratively.
It's an administrative enforcement item. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Gina, can you move that?
Yes, sorry, I can move it. Okay, so I move to pass ordinance 2021-1888 on final reading and adopt as published.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please, Anthony.
Ms. Zamara,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. McCready.
Oops, she's on mute.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Okay. Mr. Marino,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue.
Yes.
All right, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-1889, an ordinance repealing 3-9A of the Borough Code entitled Consumption or Possession of Alcoholic Beverages by Minors on Private Property. If anyone in the public would like to be heard on this, please raise your hand. And again, this is part of the new cannabis law, which says that we cannot have an ordinance regulating or giving police the ability to interfere if people underage are consuming alcohol or marijuana on private property. This is out of our control and part of that new law. So anyone in the public wish to be heard on this? I don't see anyone, so I will close the public hearing. John, This kind of police matters. You want to move that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
we just
Jen?
comment the question before we vote, Mary Jane?
Excuse me? Yeah, you have
Can
a
I have
question?
a question before we vote, Mary Jane?
Go ahead.
So, Jack, this is a policy question. So I fundamentally think that the state is wrong. I think they're making huge mistakes. And I suspect that other council people do not want to be on the record repealing this. So understanding that this is a state mandate, how do we give the state what they want? But also, I mean, look, I have to vote my conscience. I can't vote a conscience to remove such a thing. So how do we get around this?
You don't. It's, they only adopted the statute allowing us to do it a few years ago. And that's when we adopted the ordinance. And for some reason, the cannabis bill had this provision in it. I'm not sure what it has to do with cannabis. But in any event, they specifically repealed that prior law which authorized our ordinance. And they said we had to repeal it. I certainly understand your philosophical position.
So Jack, what happens if we all vote no?
Well, I'm glad you're coming around here, Councilman McQueen, because I voted against even discussing this last council meeting. I was the lone dissenter and the only one that said no then. It was a matter of conscience. And I'm wondering if we as a council reject repealing this ordinance, does that force the state to do what? Would they just ignore us? Would that make them reconsider their core decision on this in the first place?
It probably won't affect the state. It'll remain on the books then, but even if the police tried to issue a summons, any defendant would.
Well, the police have discretion. I've been told multiple times by Chief Valentine that police have discretion on enforcement of certain ordinances, and what the police do. But we as a council, and again, I made this point last council meeting. I was prepared to do it again, and I'm glad Councilman McQueen joins me. This is wrong, and we shouldn't necessarily go along with it just because somebody else higher up has told us we have to do it.
This was done at the request of the chief, but if you don't want to adopt it, I'm fine with that. Like I said, it'll just stay on the books. We have a number of ordinances probably on the books that aren't enforceable. So
I realize it puts him in a difficult position, but we have to do what we think is right as well.
Yep.
Understood.
But it's not enforceable. So why have it on the books if you can't enforce it?
Well, things may change. Who knows? If enough towns rebel, and I guess I'm showing my 1960s civil disobedience, but if enough towns reject this, maybe the state will reconsider.
Well, how about if we instead do a proclamation or a statement from the council to the state? I mean, how are they even going to know we didn't do this? They won't know.
Well, we would then let our assembly person, Aura Dunn, or we would let our state senator know.
I think the downside to leaving it on the books is if a neighbor calls the police department and says, enforce this ordinance, and then the police department tells them we can't enforce it because the state law is going to repeal. I think it may put them in an uncomfortable position.
Jack, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
For some reason, my camera's not turning on here. I'm sorry. I like it, what you're proposing. I'm not in favor of this at all either. At the end of the day, we will not be able to enforce this law because it's my understanding that what the legislation did was simply remove the authority of the council to regulate this provision in law. So if you don't act on it, it doesn't change the fact that the state has said that you can't do this. It would, I think, by default, make it null and void and not something that's enforceable by us. I don't think we would have a prosecutor that would even attempt to prosecute this if we were to write a ticket for this. If you want to leave it on the books, that's fine. We have other ordinances, quite frankly, that are on the books that are only there for plea bargains, not ordinances that we actually go out and enforce, that we can enforce, but are still on the books, such as the loitering laws and some other things like that. So, I don't have a problem with you leaving it on, to be quite honest, but I felt it was our responsibility to bring it before you for some kind of official action on it one way or another. But I like what you're proposing.
So
If the chief's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
if this does vote down, then I would propose a jointly crafted proclamation to be voted on in the next meeting to then go to the appropriate folks in Trenton.
Yeah, I'm happy to vote this down myself, and I liked Councilman Hammond's denial in the first go round, just out of principle. I kind of thought we just had to do it. So if we don't, I'm happy to vote it down myself.
So if let's call a roll on this, and then and see where the vote goes, and then we can make the decision on the proclamation.
Was it moved and seconded?
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't think I've moved it yet. I was gonna move it as a.
Oh, John was gonna do it.
Yeah, so I moved to pass ordinance,
Well, you can
20.
move, you can move to turn it down, to reject it.
Oh, okay. I moved to, I moved it to turn down ordinance 2021-1889 when final reading and adopt is published.
So yes,
Second
vote
that.
means you're not adopting.
I second that.
Not adopted. We have a second roll call. This is you to.
We're voting yes to turn it down.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Gotcha, okay, make sure I don't vote wrong somehow.
Yep. A yes vote means no.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Donahue,
yes to no.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes, with an exclamation mark.
Mr. Marino,
Yes in the negative.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes to no.
Ms. Zamara,
Yes.
Okay, so we voted that down.
Common sense prevailed.
Thanks for raising the question, Chad, and bringing it back up again.
Jeff, would you move the next ordinance?
Well, actually, I had a question about this ordinance. I don't think it was ever discussed an environmental commission. I don't know if it was discussed at another committee or not.
We're on
Not-
special events.
Oh, I was at the, okay, I had the wrong one then. I thought the next one was the small accessory mechanical equipment.
No, it's the special events.
Okay. I scrolled too far ahead, my mistake. I move that ordinance 2021-1890 concerning special events and amending chapter 4 of the Borough Code entitled General Licensing be introduced by title. Title passed and first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. on Monday, September 13, 2021.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And I believe what we've changed is to make this easier for certain groups. So any,
Here's what, we created two tiers, essentially, a group A and a group B. And a group A would be nonprofits such as downtown Bernardsville or the borough itself that have a one-day events that benefit the community as a whole or our economy. The other would be a multi-day commercial category. And so there would be different fee structures for those two categories.
it actually, yeah, we have category A, which is any event on municipal property, which is like a circus or something like that. Category B are one-day events that are sponsored by the borough or quasi-municipal entities, which includes the fire company in downtown Bernardsville, anything that's promoting economic development, educational initiatives, or the general health, safety, and welfare of the community. So that way, for things like the Labor Day 5K, they don't have to get into all the category A special event fees and dates of filing and all that. So that is what has changed. Did you move that and now we need a second? Did I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that's introduction, so we'll have a public hearing at the next meeting. Now we're on the small accessory mechanical equipment. And this one came from our zoning officer, who felt that people that have small lots not have to comply with the difficult setbacks, the size of the setbacks that we're requiring for larger lots. It makes it a little easier for them to be able to put a air conditioning condenser or a generator. So
Otherwise, it creates a good deal of
paperwork.
and actually variance applications that require zoning board approval. So that's one way we can sort of relieve a little pressure on the zoning board, and also get out of the hair of some of the small property owners.
Yeah, it makes it a little easier on residents for if they don't have to go through that process of having to get a variance.
So what do they consider? I read it and I thought there were some definitions lacking, and maybe I missed it, but what's the definition of a small property?
Well,
It specifies the zones.
I'm sorry?
It specifies the zones to which it applies.
Right, I saw all the zones. I didn't know how that translated into the size of a property.
So generally there are smaller lots in town.
In certain zones.
So here's my concern is that it said that it's essentially well, I don't want to say the word forcing, but it seemed like it was forcing people to put it in the rear of their building rather than on the side. I can understand not having it in the front, but I just didn't know if that was actually more of an obstacle for the small homeowner.
Well, I think the issue there is they don't have the frontage from right to left, right?
Right.
But it does say within the R3, R4, and R5 zones, which are the small lot zones, that they have to be in the front or the rear yard, except if they're in the front or side yard, must be screened with fence, landscaping, and/or fencing.
Yeah, which is just in consideration of the neighbors who are probably very close.
It's the large lots, I think that it has to be in the rear yard.
Is this only for new installations of air conditioning and generators?
Yes.
But it would legalize any that were put in and are currently in violation.
Which happens quite a bit.
Yes.
I'm guilty. Yes.
I can speak from experience because my property is so small, like we'd run into that all the time if we were ever to put an AC in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for these two items, I mean, look, air conditioning and generators are pretty essential. The check and balance here is Jeff, who does a really good job on this. I'm okay with this.
Okay.
I think it's worthy of discussion. I certainly want to hear what the public comment is on it. I just, when I first saw it, not having, known that it was coming down the pike, all of a sudden I got alarmed that we're actually asking people to do a lot more. If it's a small lot and you have the generator on the side, for example, it may not even be possible to put a fence around it.
Well, then you probably put it in the back. But that's really, you have a discussion with the zoning officer at that point, and he would work out the details of what the best location of it is without having to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Jack, does this ordinance have to go to the planning board?
Yes, it would.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
And I think to that point, Jeff, I mean, a lot of those discussions will happen there, I promise you, because these are things that, the setbacks and the conditions are very important to them. So I think we'll get more information from the planning board in that way.
Yeah, that's good. And again, I'm not going to vote against this. So I want to just raise the issue so that we can alert the public that if anybody wants to comment, they definitely need to be at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so, Jeff. And I'll take those concerns. If you want to send me an email as well, summarizing your concerns, I can take them to the planning board to make sure they're considered in a thoughtful way.
And just an FYI, this recommendation for this ordinance actually came from the Housing Committee.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They reviewed it with the zoning
With
officer.
Jeff. Yep.
Gina, would you introduce this? Or move it?
John, could you do it if Gina's on mute?
Oh, yeah.
I'm-
yeah.
I don't have multiple screens here, so it's hard for me to introduce today.
I moved an ordinance 2021-1891 establishing small accessory mechanical equipment setbacks in residential zones and the supplementing and amending Article 12 of the Borough Land Development Regulations entitled Zoning be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. on Monday, September 13th, 2021.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Okay.
Sorry. Thanks, John. I couldn't get off mute. I had no unmute option
All
for a
in-
minute. I,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Jeff, would you like to move the next one?
Sure, let me just pull that up.
I can do it. if
I
you
move
want.
that ordinance 2021-1892 and ordinance amending salary ordinance 2021-1882 be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for, whoops, I just lost that, excuse me, be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. on Monday, September 13, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
And what this is doing was setting a fee, a salary for the captain position, which we recently created, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah, this will let us proceed with recruiting for that position.
And also for the pool executive director position. I think we
But
add,
part-time, it's a part-time,
yeah, right, a part-time salary.
We
Okay,
also have to amend the ordinance to create the position of captain in the police department ordinance.
we did not do that yet.
have
Oh, we
not
did
done
that.
Did we?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought we did that.
I thought we did that in
Meetings
like
ago.
December last year.
yeah, I think it was
Wow.
last year.
It's not in the code book yet. I'm sorry.
I think we did when we created.
We did. We did.
Yep.
I was just looking at the code and it's not in there.
Okay. We need to-
Anthony, could you find that and make sure it gets updated? Because I mean, that was
I will.
that was work that we did when I was personnel.
Yeah,
I'll say it definitely did because we came across it while we were doing the new org chart. So we followed what was on the books.
mhm. All right, moving on to resolutions. We have resolutions 21-155A through 21-167. Any that you want to discuss separately? I know the bid threshold gets done almost every year. Well, it hasn't been lately, right? So that's a good thing to increase the bid threshold. We will be doing the assessment grant for the Highlands. Did you want to talk about that at all, Tom?
So the Highlands Council offers up to $15,000 to do what's called an assessment study. So they understand what a community's land use goals are and then assess if the planning areas for the Highlands Council conflicts, where there's inconsistencies, where there might have to be some negotiations, if at all. But those conversations can't happen unless the assessment is done. So this authorizes us to make that application for that grant and to undertake that assessment.
And
and, oh, sorry,
ahead.
Mayor, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think 161 is removed, correct?
Yes, that's one for the fireworks, yes.
oh, it was. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, they're not doing the fireworks.
Okay.
The homeowner said they're not going to go ahead with that.
And the
I would like to pull out 165 just to discuss quickly. when we get a chance.
Go ahead. Go for it.
So this is the fire command vehicle, I believe, if I have the number correct. And I have no objection to us getting the fire command vehicle and supporting them. But I think that especially as we're moving now more towards looking at what vehicles can be either hybrids or electric vehicles, and now that we know that even larger vehicles, trucks, even buses are becoming hybrids and available as hybrids or electric vehicles, I really think that the discussion of vehicle purchase ought to be considered through the Environmental Commission as well as through the Finance Group or any other committee. So I just want to make the point that we were all those of us who are working on electrification were surprised to see this pop up without any discussion.
My personal opinion is that these decisions should be left to the chief. I appreciate the position of the environmental committee and what they're trying to do, but you know, this is a truck that the chief's been working on for a long time. And you know, if he chooses to go electric, that's great. I'm happy that he makes that choice, but I think this should be his choice.
Listen, I agree it should be his choice, but you know, there may be things that are available of which they're not aware, and we can help give that kind of advice. They make the final decision. The same is true for the police department, but we could offer some guidance, assistance, and input.
Glenn, would you like to comment? I see your hand up.
Yes, I mean, believe me, out of everyone, I think I'm well versed in electric cars as I do the installations for them on a daily basis. We did not find the vehicles that are available to us as a command vehicle were not electric in the contract that we entered into with the state. It wasn't discussed. This project has been in play for 3 years and wasn't something that we really ever entered into a thought process with. It's kind of a trade-off because we are actually relinquishing the vehicle that the fire company owns now to the Fire Prevention Bureau and the Housing Bureau so that we don't purchase another vehicle for the borough at the same time. So this was kind of like a trade-off between departments so that the emergency vehicle would be the newer vehicle and then the vehicle that was used around town would be less and would be something that we had already in possession. So, you know, I don't know necessarily where you want to go from there, but it was something that we actually have been working on for probably 3 to 4 years.
Well, yeah, and then actually, you helped me make my point is that I think this is something that we need to do thinking ahead. The lead time for these vehicles is at least a year at this point. But the state has, I think, just recently changed some of their procurement rules to allow for more purchase of these vehicles. I think the idea being not that this particular vehicle is in question, but I'm trying to make the point that for future purchases of vehicles, we take this into consideration.
I think you have to be careful because you're going to have to consider what the infrastructure requirements are going to be as we purchase those vehicles. Like in this case, the command vehicle doesn't get stationed at the firehouse. The command vehicle goes home with a chief. So you're going to be asking a volunteer chief to pay for the electricity for that command vehicle, which I don't think is necessarily a realistic option. And I think you have to worry about the infrastructure in our borough with some of the municipal buildings, as we don't have a new infrastructure with our municipal building and our firehouse that would sustain any superchargers in order to charge those vehicles in a 1 to 2 hour period. So, I mean, it does bring other costs to the table at the time you're purchasing these vehicles.
So Jeff, this is what I'd like to propose, because I think there's a policy issue in here. So what I'd like to propose is, look, if there's an ordinance that you'd like to come forward in regards to, you know, electric vehicles or, you know, how that process goes, you know, bring that forward and we can deliberate on it. But I don't want to hold up personally, this I'm speaking for myself, this particular vehicle, because it's something that got delayed for 2 years in finance that I think just needs to get done.
Just as a practical matter, I just want to point out that things like this we purchase. Chief said the state, but what we really mean when we say that is we purchase it through a co-op. So this one is being purchased through the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey co-op. What that means is they'll they'll put out, they'll call for bids early in the year from this organization. And they'll say, last year we bought 50 Tahoes. The people that belong to our co-op altogether bought that many. So going forward into next year, if we're able to, if we are estimating that we're going to buy these many Tahoes, what price do you give us that we can pass along to our members? So we'll join a variety of co-ops and just take advantage of their pricing. And it also, since they're a public entity and they do the bidding on the price, it removes that cost from us of having to prepare the specs, go out to bid, advertise the bid, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of cost efficiencies by buying through these governmental co-ops. I suspect that over time, they're going to migrate towards electrical vehicles as well. And I also suspect that what they'll include in those options is the installation of the charging infrastructure, things like that, as that becomes more and more in demand.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Let me just make the point, because I think I'm being misunderstood here. I'm not opposing this purchase. In fact, I wholeheartedly support it. I'm bringing up the point that since this is the wave of the future, and since the Public Works Committee, as well as the Environmental Commission, has been working on this, I think those groups ought to have some input on vehicle purchases in the future. And by the way, we're not just talking about electric vehicles, we're also talking about hybrids, which would have a different charging requirement and demand, to Chief Miller's point. So again, I think I'm being misunderstood by Councilman McQueen. I'm not opposing this. I'm bringing up a point for discussion in the future.
Yeah, no, I'm understanding you perfectly. My point is that purchase of vehicles is not an environmental commission issue. It's a financial. Well, that's why I'm saying if you believe this is an environmental commission issue in regards to purchase of vehicles, I'm happy to let the environmental commission bring an ordinance of such, and we can vote on it.
Okay.
The end user needs to determine what they need.
Yeah. Couple other things on here. The RFP for Parks and Recreation Engineer. This is a follow-up to our report on the comprehensive recreation plan. I think we talked about not necessarily having to do a separate plan for each of our facilities, but to find an engineering company that has lots of experience either doing pools or parks, and hopefully that will move things a little faster in getting some of this work done without having to commission a whole other plan. So we are, Tom Chernetsky will be doing the RFP for that. The other thing, since Tom O'Day's not here, I will thank the volunteers for offering their time to the fire company. We're always grateful for volunteers. So thank you to those three folks who have agreed to be members. And also thank you, Bob Markowick, and actually John McDowell and Doug Walker for putting together the grant for the pickleball courts. The county has some grants available for recreational projects in municipalities, and they have all worked together to get that submitted. So thank you, and hopefully we will get the funding, because I know pickleball is in big demand these days. So we're hoping that goes through. Anything else on the resolution list that anyone wants to comment on, or would you like to move it?
I can move it. I'll move that resolutions 21-155A to 21-167, with the exception of 21-161, which was removed, be adopted.
I'll second.
A roll call, please.
Ms. Zamara,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. Marino,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue.
Yes.
All right, we are good. So moving on to reports. First is my update. Okay. So it's been a while. July 13th, I met with Brenda Kernan and the new owners of Cycle Bar in the Bernard Shopping Center. And they're very enthusiastic, and they have also joined the Mayor's Wellness Campaign Committee and looking forward to being members of the community. I attended a Mayor's Monarch Pledge webinar, and what they are encouraging is the creation of more small habitats rather than big areas. We did not do much through 2020, which was understandable, but hopefully we'll be planting more milkweed come spring. We did a lot last year. The year before, we planted all around the schools and on borough property. So hopefully those are doing well. The Mayor's Wellness Campaign, we had a meeting at the new Community in Crisis building, which was nice of them to host. We'll be sponsoring with Recreation a fall fitness fair. I believe it's Saturday, September 18th. We're looking to possibly do a healthy cookbook, and we'll be helping with the downtown Bernardsville Labor Day 5K. The Community in Crisis is also going to hold their Chefs Unite event on October 24th at the Bernards Inn. They did not have it in 2020. It's their major fundraiser. If you did not have a chance to go, it's all throughout the Bernards Inn. They've got different restaurants and tables, and it was really a very good event and a good fundraiser for them. I met with the band members who were supposed to do a concert at 271 Claremont. We went over all the logistics for parking and band setup. I also got to meet the owner of the homes, really a great guy. He was on the recreation committee in his former town and actually was the guy who booked all their bands. So we may be recruiting him to help with our concerts. I participated in a downtown cleanup on the 16th of July. Not too much garbage, lots of weeds. And I got poison ivy. So what the policy currently is that property owners are given up to 11 days to remove their weeds. And if they don't, then they get a second warning. So it could take a number of weeks before those weeds get taken care of. And I know some of you, I know I have gotten complaints about the weeds. So we did make an administrative policy change that now property owners will be given 5 days notice to take care of their weeds and then given a summons so that we get them taken care of. That's for weeds that get over 6 inches. I did attend the July 20th Coffee with a Cop that was at Community in Crisis. And I don't know if you've seen their posting, but they're doing a whole lot more. Actually, there's one tomorrow morning, I think, at Starbucks. So lots of opportunities to have coffee with our cops. Cultural Arts Committee met. We had to cancel the concert because of weather. We're hoping to schedule more either late September or early October. Also talking with the schools to possibly do an art show, and then in the winter to do an international potluck supper. I attended the Somerset County Human Services Advisory Council meeting, and the presentation was from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have, it's naming NAMI. They have an amazing series on their website with people, it's called In Our Own Voice, where people who have struggled with mental illness tell their stories. It's really powerful. So if you get an opportunity to ever go to their website, it's worth listening to. I attended the EV Fleet Analysis webinar, which had some great resources for what Dr. Hammond was talking about in how to do a gradual conversion of vehicles. It really recommending for vehicles that travel over 50 miles, but under 150 miles a day. Starting with sedans, small SUVs, vehicles that have a consistent parking location and a long dwell time. So they sit in the same place, overnight. The Department of Community Affairs will be providing municipalities with a model ordinance to make permitting easier to put in charging stations. There will be an EV show at Duke Farms on September 25th from 10 to 2 as well. I attended National Night Out on August 3rd, which was a great event. Big thank you to the police, fire, and first aid for just really an incredible program. Lots of families came out, ice cream, hot dogs. It was just great. We also had the lead van there that we're transferring from DARE into the lead program. And there was also a vaccination clinic. So they did manage to get some people vaccinated. I attended it was actually in-person county forum on the Rescue Act in Hillsborough. They were actually having two and ended up the second one, they went back to virtual, but a lot of good information on how those funds are supposed to be used. The county updates, COVID numbers are creeping up. In Bernardsville, our vaccination numbers for 18 and over are at 79%. For 65 and over, they're at 77%. And for all ages, it's 64%. We did have another vaccination clinic at the train station on July 29th. County employees are 100% back to work, but now they're back to all wearing masks. Good news, we got a call from Congressman Malinowski that the Boylan Terrace walkway project made the first cut in the list of community projects for the 2020 House Appropriations Bill, 2022 House Appropriations Bill.
Yay.
Yes, so we did, it did get passed in one house, gone to the second now. So hopefully it will get approved there. So we were excited to hear that. That's moving along. I've been meeting with a young man who I think he's going to be a junior, Ashwin Barama, who has come up with a very interesting project. It's called a wind bush. And it's actually, they're in France right now. There are none in this country. It's a bush that has solar and wind on it. So they spin and also get sun. Very creative, whoever came up with these things. And he is raising money and would like to try and install one of these at the library with the goal that it would, next to a bench, and you could, would make enough energy to have some chargers so people could charge their laptops or their phones while they're sitting there. So I'll keep you posted on that. He's been doing this kind of on his own. Really, we have some really great students doing great things. And then lastly, we'll be doing the committee replacements for Tom O'Day's spots just until the end of the year. So we'll be, Matt will be serving on recreation, the Historic Preservation Committee, and I believe Public Works, and Gina will take his place on the Land Use Committee. All right, that was my report.
Can I just make a plug? Since you brought up about the COVID numbers going up, that there will be a vaccination clinic run by the Berners Township, but we contract with them for our health department on August 23. And this will include the Pfizer vaccine that's really meant to target or be available to 12 to 18-year-olds. So as we get ready to go back to school or get off to school, that is something to keep in mind and make use of that. Currently, and these are national numbers, not New Jersey numbers, but we're now at where 1 in 5 new COVID cases are among teens or under 20-year-olds.
Okay. Thank you. Administrators report.
Thank you, Mayor. The auditor concluded the FY 2020 audit a couple days ago. We had an exit interview. And that document will be making its way to you shortly. And if you turn all the way to the back under recommendations, there's only one thing typed, and it's the word none. So that's very good.
Ooh, congratulations. Good job.
Yeah, and I will pass that along to Leslie, Tina, and Christine, who deal with our finances. But I will say too that, you know, it's all the department heads following the purchasing manuals, being very timely with their purchases, getting all their quotes, documenting the quotes, not spending outside of their budget allocations. So it's a team effort. Leslie does a great job reinforcing it. And of course, council is, it's council's expectation that this is what we do, and they set a good tone for us. So thank you very much.
Great job.
Second thing I'd like to point out is that we've started the process of addressing the most severe lifts and depressions in our pavers around Olcott Square. There have been a couple surprises that I'll talk to you offline about, but I just wanted you to be aware that we've started on that process. The mayor mentioned that we've had a challenge getting people to comply with the weed ordinance. But I will say though that of the 25 violations and properties we've been pursuing, Jeff Price has been successful ultimately in getting the vast majority of those into compliance with a few stragglers, but thanks for that guidance, and we're gonna keep pursuing. The coffee with the cop tomorrow that the mayor mentioned is at Starbucks from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We are knee deep or elbows deep in the review of police applications, and we may be asking the council to have an emergency meeting early next week just to authorize some contingent offers. And also, the police department is sponsoring a collection of back to school supplies for children in need of that. And if there's a collection bin, and you can bring your items to the police department entrance and at the library, and they will be delivered to the appropriate students. And
That's
then,
great. Thank you, Tom. Is there any social media, Facebook posts about that, just so people can see it?
you know,
Yes.
I'll have.
Yes, we posted it on our police Facebook page. I think it's been shared on the bubble. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we did also have information available at National Night Out that we were handing out. But if you go to the police Facebook page, you'll find it. It's also on our website as well.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
it does list, you know, what products you're looking for, right? What specific things. I
Yes.
think it did have all that. Yep.
Okay, great. And what's the date? Sorry, what's the date that that's being collected until?
Yeah, we'll be collecting it through the month of August until we don't have an exact end date yet, but as the month comes to a close, we're hoping by September 1 to be able to go through everything and get it distributed where it needs to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then finally, with respect to masking, I consulted with Dr. Hammond this morning. He's the other hat wearing guy on our council. And when we opened the municipal building and the other facilities, we asked residents to wear a mask if they had not yet been vaccinated. We're gonna pull back from that a little bit, and we're asking the public when they come into any municipal facility to please wear a mask, whether they're vaccinated or not, and staff will do likewise when they meet with the public. So that is, I think, a good measured step. We're not suggesting we return to work from home or close the facilities to the public, but we'll continue to monitor and communicate with council on appropriate steps. And that's my report.
Thank you. So now I will need a motion to accept the department monthly reports.
I'll move to accept the department monthly reports.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, you have Jack's report. I don't think, did you need to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mayor. And we discussed most of the key topics in executive session.
Great, thank you. Public safety, have you met, John?
No, no. I guess our next one will be Thursday.
The interviews, yeah. Finance, we did meet, Chad, right?
Yes, we did. And believe it or not, we're already starting to think about 2022 budget cycles. Something that we started thinking about last year was a move to zero-based budgeting. And Tom, I'll let you sort of chime in here if you'd like. We are going to allow department heads some initial discretion in prioritizing budget this year. More information to come. And that process will start in September. Believe it or not, we're in August. So our budget cycle actually begins here very quickly.
You stated that well, Chad, and nothing to add.
Okay.
Good. And thank you, Mayor, for joining the Finance Committee again.
Yeah, fun. Just so fun. Organizational Development and Personnel Committee.
Most of the activities that we did at our last meeting have already been covered with the ordinances, resolutions that we talked about. That had to do with the salary change for the police that would allow us to go ahead and recruit for captains, as well as the creation of a part-time pool manager stipend. We also discussed encouraging our DPW employees to volunteer as firefighters and to collaborate with our EMS squad. We're not going to require anybody to do anything, but we certainly agree with Chief Miller. We can encourage them to do so. I think that was it for personnel and organization.
Okay, thank you. Public Works.
Okay, good. I thought I was going to have a problem getting off of mute again. Looks like the Bernards Ave Road Improvement Project. We're looking to get some information of preliminary design at the next Public Works Committee meeting in October, so a couple of months from now. The dam remediation, we've got, we sent in June for their review and approval for the sediment sampling and testing. So hopefully we receive some input back on that. And we have the annual dam inspection is scheduled in November. The Polo Grounds walking path, we're hoping to complete work in October, but of course that's up against contractor availability and materials and all that stuff with COVID. Washington Corner and Carriage House, the roadways are to be milled and paved this fall. Crestview Drive work has been a little bit delayed with PSE&G's delay of getting the dry lines for the gas installed, but looking at maybe starting maybe next week for the fixing all the roads fixing the road for Crestview. Chestnut Avenue road work the project has been awarded. We had mill and paves that were completed in mid-July, but we didn't get the update until now. So for this month, based on the meeting schedule here that we had for public. So we had Ravine Lake Road, Washington, Prospect, Wynwood, Pheasant Hill, Oakley, Quarter, Condit. They were completed by on July 16th. And let's see, the Quiet Zone, the ad hoc training committee, we're waiting on NGA DOT to get back to us with dates to meet. Doug has sent a couple of reminder emails, so hopefully they respond this week. We've got the road survey that has been updated and completed, so we have a full list of how poor or great our roads are, and the 0 to 100 scale, which is fabulous that we have that available to us. Updated, they kind of do it every 3 years or so, so it's good it was done now. And then we have the library lower level generator that should be done. It was scheduled for July 19th. That was our last meeting. So the final electrical and gas connections were scheduled for then, so that should be done by now. And the county project for Meeker Road Bridge is done, which hopefully everybody knows about by now. And that's all for me.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the road survey, I think, is really an excellent, useful document. That was great that got done. Thank you.
Lots of stuff being done by Public Works, as you can see. So thanks to them.
Great. Land Use Committee, obviously, you know what we were working on, so we just approved our developer. Any other committee or commission reports?
Nothing for me that's in excess of what was reviewed tonight, so.
Okay. I know in August, a lot of the committees aren't meeting. So I know Shade Tree had a meeting, didn't they? Johanna, can you report on that? I know we finally got them back up and running.
Yeah, since we missed several, it was good that you, Mayor Mary Jane, have recommended that we have our July one. So we did. And it was the first meeting that Dennis Galway chaired. And we welcomed our new member, Mike Anderson. And we talked about what we proposed to work on our September meeting. We won't have an August one. So we are going to start up our tree planting. We hadn't done that for a while. And I'm hoping we can get enough interest and people power to do we haven't done an inventory of the municipal trees for a long time. I think it might be worthwhile to do that. I know Rutgers has some programs that can help that along for municipalities to do it. With the invasive insects coming, it's kind of nice to know which species you have, your specimens, so that you are prepared, at least you know where they're going to be attacked from. So I'm hoping we can do that in September.
Great. Thanks. I'm glad you're back on track. Terrific. Anyone else? All right. We do have, I think, appointments. I'm appointing Gina McCready to Land Use to finish the end of through December for Tom O'Day's replacement. I guess the council has to approve the other ones, right? Anthony, for Matt to be on those three.
Right. Yeah, we just need a motion, a second, and a voice vote for Matt to be on Recreation, HPAC, and Public Safety.
I'll move it.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, more work for you, Matt. What is 10B?
Yeah, Frank Matolas just asked that we adopt an ordinance requiring submission of application materials in digital form as well as hard copies. They had to do that during the pandemic, so they found it very useful and they like an ordinance. So with your permission, I'll have an ordinance for the next meeting for introduction.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? I think that's.
A lot of towns already
good.
do it, so.
Yeah, sounds useful.
Thank you.
Okay. And we also had the letter from the Tour de Summer Camp bike ride on October 10th, which we don't have to do anything. It's just really for information to know that they are going to be here.
Hey, Mayor, can I just segue off the cycling thing? Because we are working on our fall cyclocross, and Bob will be talking to you about this later in the week. But as I mentioned, I think in the July meeting, Track Spot was like a swag sponsor last spring. We'll be there again in the fall, but they brought in SRAM, which is a components maker. SRAM said they'll spend up to $4,000 to buy food for people at the event. So that's pretty cool. And if we can kind of source out to local business, they seem pretty open to, like, you order the food, we'll pay for it kind of thing. But I'll get details on that. So it'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's terrific.
It's great.
Yeah. When are you starting? That's going to be what?
September 3rd, Wednesday, September 13th to 15th. So 5 weeks versus the 10. And it kind of ends when like the regular state series starts, the big one.
Mhm.
great training series. We do different platforms, so we'll definitely get more eyeballs and riders. And I'll be talking to you, Tom, because we'll work on what it can suit as far as the parking situation there. It'd be super helpful if they could tear down that horrible shed, but it's not a make or break.
It might fall down on its own.
What's the starting date again?
Let me not misspeak here. Our date we have penciled in, hoping to September 15th, running
September. I'm sorry, September or December?
September, running to October 13th. Wednesday.
So Wednesdays? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any unfinished business? Any new business?
I have something I had actually brought up to our business administrator, and I just wanted to raise the issue and bring it forward so that the finance committee can discuss it. But one of the things that, since we're talking about cycling, that I noticed lately is the paucity of bike racks that we have in town, which would also fit into not only our master plan, but the recreation master plan that we've just developed, as well as some of the work we've done with RideWise. And so I would hope that as we begin to implement the master plan and as we implement our finances for the 2022 budget, we consider some bike racks for municipal properties. We have a few at the pool, but we don't have them, for example, at the Polo Grounds. We don't have them at the train station. I don't think I've seen anything up at Kiwanis. So I just wanted to bring that up as new business.
Yeah, Jeff, I think that's a good idea. And actually, I'll pile on to that. I mean, there's a bunch of items in the rec plan. I think Bob's here, and I know probably the recreation committee is listening, that are near-term sort of short solutions, either for ADA compliance or otherwise. I did mention in the finance committee, because we were talking about the master plan, I'd expect that the recreation committee move quickly on those items and get them in front of council. When I say quickly, I mean within 30 days. I don't want to sit on these items for a long time. And I guess the clock is ticking, or else we'll start moving on these things independent. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, Jeff, and I'm urging the rec committee to move quickly.
There is a bike rack at the train station. It's old and rusty, but it's there. And I know that's something that downtown Bernardsville was also looking at as a project, is replacing that one. Yes, Bob.
Just to Chad's point, a recreation committee meeting is tomorrow night. I also wanted to say that we did have a vote on the cyclocross, and that went through. So we're in favor of that for the fall series. That was a email vote. We will be tomorrow night, and we will. I'm moving up the September meeting to the 7th, so we'll have 2 meetings before the next council meeting. My hope is discussion tomorrow night and some final recommendations on the meeting the 7th. Bring them to council. Just so you know.
You're the best, Bob. Thank you.
You got it.
Yes, I know. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot to digest, the report. So thank you for moving the meeting so they've got more time to deliberate on that. Okay. We now have our second open session. If anyone from
Hey, or what? Can I just bring something up real quick? I don't know if the new business. I know one. Yeah, I know it came to me when we were talking about shade tree and like possible infestations. I know one infestation that I think we've had, I know some people have noticed, I've seen it, are the lantern flies that have kind of been appearing all over the place. And I saw something on the bubble, I think, that residents are concerned and questioning, like if there's anything like what to do about them. And I'm not sure if this even falls like under anything, but that might be something, I don't know, just to think about, because we've had, I know the cicadas and then, other things, but that's one thing that I've seen people just asking about, like, oh, what can we do about like lantern flies? Because I've seen them all over the place, and I'm not even sure what, I know they say like crush them, I guess, if possible, but I don't know. That's just something I wanted to bring up, as I think when you talk about like infestations and things like that.
Can the Shade Tree Committee give us any formal recommendation? I mean, I've also heard you crush them. I've
Yeah,
also
yes,
heard you spray them with soapy water.
Yeah. Did you have advice for us?
Yes, we posted when they were first cited, some ways of handling it. There's vinegar and water, there's scraping if you get people. We entered information at different stages of it to address, for instance, taking off the eggs off the trees. It's a big problem, and for a municipality, there's spraying that you're not going to want to involve with. It's got to be the individual people, but there is definitely information that's been posted out there. I can redirect it. We have some great people who are getting information out on the different medias. I'm not the one doing that, but I assure it's even on the Environmental Commission's site of what to do. Yeah.
Do you have a plug to the Environmental Commission site? What is that for people who've never visited?
They go to the town hall site and then they go to the Environmental Commission. They will get information and you'll see a beautiful display on the spotted.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. All right. Are we ready for our open session?
Is it time for the public?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. I just want to really underscore that the Environmental Commission recognizes that they are advisory. I mean, the two chairs that I work with, we always talked about that. So if I hear two council people not wanting or trying to interfere or prevent the Environmental Commission from communicating with issues that should definitely be environmental, like the electric vehicle that members have. We have a subcommittee. They've spent tremendous time about it, learning about it. I think that we should be able to, there's no way, I heard Dr. Hammond say from the beginning that he was just questioning that in the future we should be involved. There's no one on the commission, my subcommittee, that would tell either Chief Valentine or Chief Miller what vehicles they should have. But I think they have investigated quite a bit that they should be allowed to give their opinion. And so to exclude the Environmental Commission really is stressful. I'd like to see Bernardsville move ahead. We don't want to miss any more grants. We need to be proactive. I'm grateful that our mayor goes to these meetings and that we have an active liaison from the council, but please don't shut us down. I think that would be a disservice to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Yeah, you have a lot of experts there with a lot of good information, so we appreciate it. Anyone else? Glenn, you have your hand up. Chief Miller.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the council and especially Tom and Leslie for all the efforts that have gone into, we've done two incredibly large purchases in the last month, and they were invaluable to me. And really, we are doing what's best for the town. And Tom's expertise actually was something that helped the fire department move into what I feel is a better direction with our purchases and where we went. And, I just wanted to say thank you publicly to all of you.
Thank you. And thank you for all the time you commit to the fire company, the county fire, everybody. Yeah. You've done an incredible job and we are very grateful. So thank you.
Absolutely. And glad that you're being supported by our administration. Thank you, Tom and Leslie.
Yes, thank you.
I'll pass that along. Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome, Tom.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? I am not seeing anyone. So I will close the public session. We do not need to have another executive session, right?
We do not.
So do I have a motion for adjournment?
Wow, another early one. Motion to adjourn. Matt,
Second.
you're key now.
Okay, used to it now. We'll be back to the fall soon.
Favor, yes?
Aye.
There we go. No one's opposed, I'm sure. All right.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thank you. For
Thanks, everybody.